Erwin Bach left the house at 8:15 in the morning. He had a meeting in the city. He would be back by noon. Tina Turner was sitting at the kitchen table when he left. She was drinking tea. She told him she would be fine. What happened in that house between 8:15 and noon, in the months after the stroke that should have ended everything, is something Tina Turner described only once, in a conversation with a close friend, who kept it for years before sharing the outline of it. And it is the real story of how Tina Turner found her way back. In November 2009, Tina Turner had a stroke. She was 69 years old. She was at home in Küsnacht, Switzerland. She had been retired from touring for 6 years. The stroke was significant. The medical team was direct about what it meant. There would be recovery. There would be rehabilitation. There would be a long, non-linear process of relearning things that the body had always known how to do, and now needed to be taught again. Tina Turner was acquainted with non-linear processes. She had rebuilt her career from 36 cents. She had learned, in the months after leaving Ike, that reconstruction does not move in a straight line. That some days are the day before yesterday, and some days are 6 months ahead. She understood the shape of it. Understanding the shape of it did not make it easier. The rehabilitation was physical primarily: movement, balance, the re-coordination of systems that had been disrupted by the event. Her medical team was excellent. Erwin Bach was present in a way that he had always been present: patient, consistent, there. What nobody knew how to rehabilitate, what the medical team could not prescribe, and Erwin could not provide, and the Buddhist practice could address but not resolve, was something more specific. Tina Turner did not know if she could still sing. Not because of a clinical finding, not because anyone had told her she couldn't, because she had not tried. In the weeks after the stroke, the voice had been quiet, not absent. She could speak, she could communicate. The stroke had not taken language. But singing is not speaking. Singing requires a specific relationship between the body and the breath and the sound that speaking does not. And Tina Turner, who had been in that relationship since she was a child in Nutbush, Tennessee, singing in the church choir, did not know if that relationship had survived. She did not try to find out. Not in the first weeks. Not in the first months. Erwin did not push. Her team did not push. The medical team addressed what they could address and left the rest to her. On a morning in the early spring of 2010, Erwin left for a meeting in the city at 8:15. He would be back by noon. Tina Turner sat at the kitchen table for a while after he left. She drank her tea. She looked out the window at Lake Zurich. The lake in early spring has a specific quality of light: gray-silver, clean, the surface moving slightly in the morning wind. She sat with the lake for a while. Then she stood up. The house in Küsnacht had a music room. It had always had a music room. There was a piano in it that had been there for years, not a performance instrument, a domestic one, the kind of piano that sits in a room, because music lives in a house and needs somewhere to be. Tina Turner had not been in the music room since before the stroke. She walked down the hall. She opened the door. She stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at the piano. Then she walked to the bench and sat down. She has described what happened next with the specific economy of someone describing something that belongs entirely to them, not for the audience, not for the record, for the friend she told it to years later, who kept it until she understood that keeping it was no longer the right thing to do. Tina placed her hands on the keys. She did not play a song. She played a chord. One chord. She listened to it resolve in the room. Then she opened her mouth. She has not described what came out, whether it was the voice she had always had, whether it was diminished, whether it was different in ways that only she could measure. She has described only what happened in her body when she heard it. "I cried," she said, "not because something was wrong, because something was still there." She sat at that piano for 2 hours, alone in the house, Erwin at his meeting in the city, the lake visible through the music room window, still moving in the morning wind. She sang, not for anyone, not toward any performance or recording or audience, for the same reason she had always sung when nobody was asking her to. Because it was what she was. Erwin came home at noon. Tina was in the kitchen. She was making lunch. He has said, in the careful way he always speaks about private things, that she looked different. Not dramatically, not in a way he could point to, the way a person looks when they have learned something that changes their relationship with what they were afraid of. She told him what she had done. He did not make a large moment of it. He sat down. He accepted the lunch she had made. And later, much later, he said that he understood that morning as the morning the recovery actually began. Not the first day of rehabilitation, not the first medical milestone. The morning a woman sat at a piano alone in a house by a lake and found out that the thing she was most afraid of losing was still there. Tina Turner did not return to performing after the stroke. She had made her peace with retirement before the stroke arrived. The stroke confirmed rather than created that peace. But she sang, in that music room, by that lake, for the years that remained. Not for arenas, not for recordings, not for the industry that had said she was too old at 43 and had been spectacularly wrong. For herself. The way she had sung in the church choir in Nutbush, Tennessee, before anyone was listening, before anyone was asking. Because some things, it turns out, a stroke cannot take. And a chord in an empty room on a spring morning can tell you which things those are. If this story moved you, if you have ever been afraid to find out whether something you love about yourself is still there, subscribe and share this video. Leave a comment. Tell us about the morning you found out something was still there. We read every one.